The founding master Shakyamuni Buddha, before his entrance into nirvana, ordained that later in the Dharma-ending age, Bodhisattva Maitreya would return to the human world to fulfill his great compassionate vow to completely save all living beings. Bodhisattva Maitreya would attain the supreme accomplishment that is the level of Buddha and become the fifth Buddha to succeed Shakyamuni Buddha. He would restore the Buddha path and maintain the immortal true Dharma of all Tathagata Buddhas for 5,000 years. According to the Buddhist calendar, the current year is over 2,500, and there have been 3 times in recorded history when Lord Maitreya returned to the human world to open Tao Dharma. These events have been known by a great number of Buddhist followers. The Lord returned 3 more times, but he kept silent during these periods, and thus almost nobody knew about it. The Lord was, in one incarnation, a national master. In another, the Lord was a king. Both of these were in China. The Lord was also a Dharma master in Tibet in another incarnation. These events will be recounted more fully in the following pages.
In one of his former lives, Bodhisattva Maitreya returned to China with the name Fudaishi. It was not until after his passing that secular people would know that Fudaishi was actually the incarnation of Lord Maitreya.
Also, in China, at the time of Liang Dynasty, Bodhisattva Maitreya had appeared again in this world with the title of Most Venerable Budai. His body differed from that of secular people. His forehead was wrinkled, his abdomen was enlarged, and the trunk of his body was portly. When departing from life, he sat to meditate without any illness and passed away while still in meditation. By that time, secular people knew that Most Venerable Budai was actually Bodhisattva Maitreya, who had come back to this human world. In another past life, when Bodhisattva Maitreya had returned to the world in India, the Lord bore the name Nagarjuna. At his passing, secular people realized that Lord Nagarjuna himself was the incarnation of Lord Maitreya. Whenever the Lord appeared in this human world, he always did numerous beneficial deeds for living beings, following his firm vows.
From the end of the Second World War to now, most monks and nuns, including most venerables, and highly virtuous ones, believed that this was not yet the incarnation time of Lord Maitreya. They believed, and still do, that the Lord remains in the Tusita heaven, so there will be many more lifetimes before the Lord will appear and come into the human world to continue the true Dharma of the founding master Shakyamuni Buddha. On the other hand, in southern Vietnam, there were a lot of religions such as Christianity, Buddhism, Cao Daism, Tai An Buddhanaster, and Hua Hao Buddhism, and even erudite people and superhumans, along with the oracle scriptures that predicted and prophesied that Lord Maitreya had returned to Vietnam but still secluded himself away from the world. They firmly believed that Lord Maitreya had already come to life in Vietnam, but nothing happened. Time passed, and nobody could hear or see the appearance of strange phenomena that would allow them to perceive the Lord in person according to the oracle scriptures. Gradually, many people became more and more anxious, and that gave rise to doubt. According to the Great Collection Sutra, the 2,500th year after Shakyamuni Buddha entered Nirvana signals the beginning of the Dharma ending age and Lord Maitreya's reincarnation. But it is now the year 2538 of the Buddhist calendar, and Lord Maitreya still has not yet appeared in the world, a fact that has made scholars and faithful Buddhist disciples more doubtful. Close to entering the 8 Masses of Nirvana, the Lord visited Dalat City and bought a statue of Kong-Ming, which he brought back to Nha Trang. The Lord then inscribed below the statue, "Life is an ocean of suffering. Not many people can avoid the sufferings of life. Even Prime Minister Kong-Ming Zhuge had to bend his head to a pile of books and endure unhappiness to find out a way to help life be free from suffering. The universe never helps us. It is only our mind that can save us. The heartless is the cruelest." The Lord has clearly determined the spiritual path. A Dharma practitioner cannot rely on others or simply supplicate and pray to the superior beings, but must personally be diligent in correcting one's character for the better. As thousands of dharmas evolving into circumstances, one must endure them and resolve them oneself in order to cleanse one's karma. After attaining true enlightenment, the great compassionate heart naturally arises, loving living beings as one's own life, unable to sit idly while seeing beings still sinking into the fire ocean of suffering. One day, the Lord taught, and I heard these words, "You and I have been found throughout many lives, side by side. There was one former lifetime when I was a national chief advisor in China. I could not keep my eyes closed before the people who were groaning in suffering. I had to make use of my wisdom as a means to salvation for life. The practice and fulfillment of Tao Dharma today, though without a strong army, an authority, a guard, or physical weapons beside me, yet with a determined will, I use the Buddha power, which is thousands of times stronger than before, to effectively save life." The Lord then ordered a drawing of a Guangong picture and hung it in his residence. Upon entering his room and seeing the picture of Guangong in the position of an escort, I suddenly remembered my former life and that of the Reverend Lord intuitively. I was astonished to discover that the Lord had been Kong-Ming of the Han Dynasty, national master at the time of Liu Bei, who was also called Liu Xinda in China. What a strange thing! I was so astonished to see as far back as around the year 191, observing Liu Bei, Guangong, and Zhang Fei in their time. After a discussion, they had arranged for the initiation of their friendship the next day in the peach garden behind Zhang Fei's house, where they had laid out offerings and celebrated before heaven and earth. Kong-Ming at that time was the incarnation of Bodhisattva Maitreya himself. In the eyes of the meditation master, he perceived that affection and gratitude became a deep, fundamental cause. In spite of the ever-changing existence of human beings, along with the innumerable vicissitudes of life, we are now side by side in this scientific and atomic era of the 20th century. The following 2 verses from Reverend Ting Vung, who is the incarnation of Lord Maitreya and was also Kong-Ming in the past, remind us of the non-stop rotation of transmigration of human lifetimes,
and that we could meet each other in bodily form again if we have affection and gratitude for each other. From ancient times, we now can meet each other. Does that mean we had a very deep attachment with each other in our former life? From ancient history up to the present, the 20th century, human civilizations and humankind as a whole have advanced greatly. Lord Kong-Ming, now with the name Ting Voon Yet Tone, has also changed himself accordingly. The Lord was successful and was superior to the domain of science and even to this world's politicians. How wonderful it was! The Lord appeared in this human world with only a third-grade education, not completing even elementary schooling. Nevertheless, neither so many scientists with doctorate degrees nor impressive scholars who have created many ultra-modern inventions could stand against his secret guidance from far and away. Sutra books that were written when the Lord entered into true contemplation of samadhi were admired by highly educated people who could not thoroughly understand them. Thus, we see clearly that no level of education can surpass true enlightenment.
During the time of Reverend Tint Vung's complete salvation for living beings, Guan Gong was at the rank of deity, an invisible Dharma protector who vowed to guard the true Dharma at all times. Guan Gong diligently used his powers as a deity to come into the communist countries, where he was greatly needed. He caused the blockade of temples to be lifted, reopening them for the faithful followers who have come there to worship, admire the Buddha, and practice according to their will. Thanks to the vow of salvation for living beings made by Guan Gong especially, as well as divas, deities, Dharma protectors, dragon deity Dharma protectors, etc., Buddhist monks and nuns in communist countries were still allowed to live in the temples and continue practicing Dharma until the reform of the nation. Guan Gong often went to China and Taiwan to help the people of these two countries live in peace. There were many times when the situation was so grave that Guan Gong received direct orders from Reverend Tint Vung, the incarnation of Lord Maitreya, to resolve matters. It is very difficult to describe all of this. It also was Guan Gong who also personally went to the Soviet Union many times during the periods of tension on the border between the Soviet Union and China to prevent the Communist Soviet Union from pushing their troops into Communist China. Guan Gong has indeed earned a great merit for his assistance, along with divas, deities, Dharma protectors, dragon deity Dharma protectors, etc., in promoting peace in the world and in maintaining the true Dharma under the guidance and leadership of Reverend Tint Vung. This was a true miracle. It was Kong-Ming of the past, now reincarnated with the name Tint Vung, who was truly behind such miraculous activity. Without this intervention, all of the efforts by the West in the field of science, among others, would have failed. Now the invisible Dharma protector, Guan Gong, at the level of deity, has followed Reverend Tint Vung to establish his virtuous merit in practicing Dharma. The Five Tigers team, as well as the courtiers of Liu Bei in the Han Dynasty, also has turned their minds toward the Dharma practice in Dharma Constitution Vietnamese Buddhism, which is also the Long-Hoa Superior Association. The kings and mandarins of the Vietnamese dynasties of Ding, Lê, Lý, Chen were also reborn and followed the Lord to practice Dharma in new bodies and under new names in this lifetime. Nothing is strange because the groundwork for it had already been laid beforehand. We can see from recorded history that these dynasties were devoted to Buddhism. They are now seeking for liberation through knowing, seeing, and solving. They therefore meet again in this lifetime. During this time,
Liu Bei and his courtiers in the past were reborn as humans and followed the Lord to practice Dharma on the path of enlightenment. Guan Gong, also called Quan Van Chuong in Vietnamese, was not reborn as a man, but still remained at the invisible deity rank and has been guarding the true Dharma. He often went to the US and other places in the free world. The former Zhang Fei later became President Chiang Kai-shek of Taiwan. Close to the day when he entered into the Eight Masses of Nirvana, Reverend Tink Vuong attested that Guan Gong was a Dharma protector and further advised me, "Later, you should inform those in the temples to worship Guan Gong, because he has helped the temples open for living beings practicing Dharma." It is truly a miracle how the Dharma nature proceeded in the time of Lord Kong-Ming. It is now happening exactly as it did in the past. Today, the Five Tigers Group is also part of the central administration, overseeing and supporting the entire course of the Lord's spiritual mission, so that living beings could cultivate and practice. The Lord's true disciples are numerous. Especially among them are quite many descendants of Devadatta who have also practiced Dharma. These tend to be nuisances, however. Their hearts are full of jealousy and suspicion. Lord Tink Vuong also had the following verses inscribed to express Guan Gong's filial piety. To be ungrateful to one's parents will bring about serious disasters, such as severe corporal punishment, incurable diseases, excessive penalty, and continuous accidents.
Scientists did not accept explanations about the mystical spirit as seen in the eyes of a meditation master. They wanted concrete experiments demonstrated on tangible things. Even if these explanations were concretely demonstrated, they would not bring themselves to accept it, as they lacked the eyes of contemplative meditation and the knowledge of a meditation master. When Reverend Tint Vuong attained true enlightenment, the Lord remembered his former lives in the past. Many lives that spanned hundreds of thousands of years could be seen. The future of humanity on this planet, as well as that of the 3,000 great thousand worlds, were visible to the Lord. Explaining this to some would only give rise to arguments and would not help them open their eyes. A few years ago, the news reported on 7 planets appearing at the same time in the sky. The vast majority of world did not know that this phenomenon was carried out by Lord Maitreya. Even if they knew Lord Maitreya himself did it, they would not be satisfied. Only if they went to Vietnam to do research, learn from the East, and discover for themselves, right in their own body-mind, would that hopefully be enough to satisfy them and help them become mutually empathetic with and assimilated into the universe and God. Just as in the proclamation for attestation, the Lord affirmed the presence of the invisible worlds, and there are innumerable amounts of them existing in the 3,000 great thousand worlds. Meanwhile, scientists have discovered that there are countless planets, but they cannot find out anything about the lives of living beings on these planets, which can be seen only by the eye of the meditation master. Why? It is because the meditation master is always ascending, basing their consciousness on carrying out the control of their nature and characteristics in life. As a result, they become almost superhuman, a sacred philosopher who can truly realize everything. As long as individuality still exists and uses traditional education for its seeking, it is difficult to see the truth.
During the Tang dynasty in China, King Li Shimin was actually Bodhisattva Maitreya. At that time, the incarnation of the Venerable Moggallana was actually Chen Xuanzang, who went from China to India in his quest for sutras. Incarnating Lord Maitreya, Reverend Tint Vuong preached, and I heard the Lord say these words: the Bodhisattva acquired the highest point of unalterable determination. He was naturally serene, without pollution by love. He has strolled all over the worlds. He respectfully worshipped the Amitabha Buddha, and then he either dwelt in the tranquility for salvation world or generated the great vow to return to the human world. Once returning to the human world, he would be a brilliant king, a leader capable of saving his country and his people, delivering them from the suffering yoke of slavery. Wherever he was reborn in the six paths, he became a salvation leader, never being an ordinary human. Why does he must be a king or leader? By becoming a king or leader, he could later possess a solemn, salvaged nation and become a Buddha, first to be a master to save his people, and later to be a master of the universe. That is an obvious matter. It must be like that. The Lord also taught that becoming a king aims at cultivating talent, which brings about intelligence. Virtue had been accumulated through many lifetimes of practice. Now, having attained intelligence, both virtue and its corresponding level of intelligence can be possessed. A Dharma practitioner must carry out supreme goodness in order to attain virtue that is as large as the sea. A supreme intelligence is a matchless one. It is by possessing such a transcendent virtue and intelligence together that one is a Buddha. One is thus neither gentle nor cruel, neither good nor evil. It is only by correctly carrying out the no-birth Dharma that one can become immortal. It has to be like that. A gentle saint goes only on the right side of life. As for the left side of life, lacking talent to oppose it, they may even face death without resentment and still bestows compassion upon others. The one on this Dharma path has neither true enlightenment nor supreme intelligence. The only intelligence a gentle saint could attain, at most, is an enlightening one. One who has attained complete enlightenment, that is, true enlightenment, must await an audience with the great power, Lord Maitreya becoming a Buddha, to be tested and examined. Only after his attestation may this one be integrated into the constitution. In the past, the founding master Shakyamuni Buddha attested to Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Kshitigarbha Bodhisattva, and Maitreya Bodhisattva, among others. The same process goes on in this inferior period of life. Lord Maitreya has opened Long-Hoa for 37 years, but those who termed themselves the truly enlightened ones did not come personally to see the Lord in order to be attested. Though they claimed to be Buddhas, they were not true Buddhas. By claiming this with insufficient merits of deeds and virtues, they would get caught in precept Buddhas. This is truly disastrous, with effects that run through incalculable lifetimes. Therefore, a faithful Dharma practitioner knows that each time Lord Maitreya returned to the human world, all of the patriarchs from the time of the founding master Shakyamuni Buddha onward drew close to the Lord to cultivate. This can be seen during China's Tang dynasty, when King Li Shimin was actually Bodhisattva Maitreya. There was also the Venerable Moggallana, incarnated as Chen Xuanzang, who went on a quest for sutras. A noteworthy point, faithful Dharma practitioners need to be mindful that before Dharma Master Xuanzang's passing, one of his true disciples, Yen Song, and others asked him, "Is Master sure that Master will be reborn in the two-seat heaven?" "Sure," replied the Dharma Master. And then the Dharma Master said, "This toxic body of Xuanzang is truly boring. Now that my work has finished, I really should not remain here.
I would like to transfer all of my virtuous merits and knowledge to all living beings, wishing that all of us would be reborn in the two-seat heaven to follow the Maitreya Bodhisattva, to learn Dharma, and to serve the Lord. When the Buddha returns to the human world, we wish to be able to return there with the Lord to progress Buddhist affairs until we attain the supreme purpose. After saying these words of farewell, the Dharma master continued to enter into contemplative meditation. Then he recited a eulogistic verse to the Maitreya Buddha and established his vow of being reborn in the two-seat heaven. After the recital, his breath gradually became weaker, and he passed away tranquilly. His skin still had a ruddy complexion, and his countenance was joyful. Over 7 days, his countenance did not change, and his body did not emit any unpleasant odors. This was in the year 664, the 7th century.
This vow, until now, in the 20th century, has been responded to in the most vigorous manner and with the highest sincerity, and it has been attested to by Reverend Ting Vung Yet Ton, incarnating Lord Maitreya. This affirms that the birth-death transmigration cycle is true. This time, Lord Maitreya returned at the end of the 20th century. The Lord appeared as a layman, as did Chen Xuanzang. All of the patriarchs from the time of the Shakyamuni Buddha also now fully appeared, taking on the characteristics of lay people. All of them were married, had children, and worked in all careers in southern Vietnamese society. They were now gathering in sufficient numbers, following Lord Maitreya to practice and learn Dharma. Among them, Chen Xuanzang, in his new incarnation and with his new name for this lifetime, was selected by Reverend Ting Vung, who was incarnating Lord Maitreya, to be head of the central administration. He was tasked with progressing Buddhist affairs throughout the entire course of the Lord's spiritual mission in this world. He also underwent uncountable difficulties and hardships of the degenerate life period, which were even much more than when he went on his quest for sutras. Many true disciples of Lord Ting Vung, practicing side by side with Xuanzang, tried to conspire to attack, subvert, and destroy by many different means. However, they did not have enough prajna intelligence, so they were unsuccessful even after numerous attempts. In truth, this is an extremely rare thing, an ancient vow made in the 7th century, holding completely true in the 20th century, the scientific and atomic century in which Lord Maitreya appeared. Today, this vow is carried out with fidelity to its original intention. Once again, when Lord Maitreya returns to the human world, we wish to be able to return there with the Lord to progress Buddhist affairs until we attain the supreme purpose. This vow was fulfilled, and the former Xuanzang attained the supreme rank true enlightenment. This was attested to by Lord Maitreya on the Great Ceremony Day, the 30th day of the 9th month of the lunar year 1989. We can discern that Dharma practitioners who cultivate with a faithful and fervent mind are invariably protected and attested by the Buddhas of 10 directions, a truth that is absolutely unfailing. Suppose that Dharma Master Shuzang had not been reborn in the two-seat heaven according to his vow, how could we see that in this period of return, Lord Maitreya appeared as a lay practitioner living at home, and Shuzang also appeared as a lay practitioner at home, and that they met in the final lifetime in which Lord Maitreya attains Buddhahood? Shuzang also successfully served in conformity with his vow. In all previous lifetimes, the patriarchs had always renounced their families, but when Lord Maitreya lived as a layman,
They also all lived as laymen. For this reason, we should know that they had all been gathered together beforehand, and there was an arrangement made by the Lord before his return to the world. It's a matter of course. At the end of the second half of the 11th century, the Venerable Moggallana was reborn in Tibet as the Lama Milarepa. This event was recorded in the book The Life of Milarepa. At that time, Lord Maitreya was Milarepa's spiritual master. So many lifetimes of actively fulfilling the vow belonged to the inconceivable dignity of the Venerable Moggallana, which was waiting to be attested in this period of return. That was long, continuous chains of effort through many lifetimes of diligent, tireless practice. The hard endurance that lasted through the evolution of thousands of dharmas, on some occasions, wore out. Many dharma practitioners ran away in this dharma-ending age, unable to endure, and they returned to the temples or hermitages while at the same time avoiding the evolution of thousands of dharmas in the human world. One day, Reverend Tint Vung, incarnating Lord Maitreya, preached, "Among the Lord's many true disciples today, those of lowest rank were also mandarins. The others were the Lord's great mandarins in the time of Kong-Ming and of King Shimin of the Tang dynasty. They all generate their minds of practicing Dharma nowadays. These things affirm that the foundation of cause was deeply set, and thus they are able to stand unified today."